How was your first time? Story 1. Here's the corrected text. About 3 months ago, I lost my virginity with my boyfriend. Before losing my V card, we just usually stuck with kissing and the occasional touching each other through clothing, but that was really it, and I feel like in our minds we kinda knew what would happen soon. Soon enough we started talking about it, and we decided to try to lead up to it, like rubbing, etc. Keep in mind we didn't really know what we were doing because we are just awkward 15-year-olds. There was this one time we got freaky by our neighborhood forest under a comforter, and we tried to hide away from people as a park was nearby. At one point when things got heated, I started making noise, and then soon a guy and his dog came up to our blanket asking under the blanket, "Are you okay?" Our faces were hidden, but that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life. One day both of us were texting, and somehow it led on to the topic of, "If you want to do anything more, please mention it," a sort of thing. Both of us were thinking about it, and I could tell he was trying to get it out of me, but of course, I was too shy, but we both confessed that we wanted to have sex with each other. We had put a lot of thought into this because both of us were hella scared of getting STDs, teen pregnancy, it hurting, where we could actually do it. Around this time it was 3 weeks before spring break, so we were planning like crazy. It's kinda funny now that I think about it because he started searching up the best condoms that wouldn't break and tips on how to make your girl orgasm, whilst encouraging me to stretch because he didn't want it to hurt for me, lol. At the time, we didn't want to do it at each other's houses because 1. Parents and 2. Siblings. So it was either an abandoned house that was near our neighborhood or a forest by an abandoned concrete place. We checked out the abandoned houses and they were kinda creepy, so forest it was. On that day, when we were walking together, you could seriously tell that both of us were really nervous. The day before he had a sleepover with his friends to have a cheer to his last day of being a virgin, which was hilarious. All of them in the night went to the forest so he could set up the tent he had, which failed because it was pretty dark. When we got there, it took us around 15 minutes to try to figure out how to set it up, and at that point, we were pretty impatient, so when it was set up, we were relieved. When it got to the point, it surprisingly didn't hurt as much as I thought it would, and he was somewhat bigger than average. It was actually pretty nice, despite the fact that we felt tree branches under us. Of course, it was awkward, and we laughed and joked some parts off, but it did feel good. Very wholesome. Correct spelling errors. Story 2. It sucked. It was an early release day. I was 19 and I had my own car. My former so and I planned this day as it would be our 1-year anniversary. We brought blankets, he brought a condom. I wore a dress for easy access despite it being about 30 degrees out there. I'm cringing just typing this. I also thought it'd be funny to wear Batman undies since he liked comics and things of that sort. Oh boy. I parked my car in a secluded spot by my school, and we sat in the back of my small 1998 Honda Accord. I reverse parked it so we could see any oncoming cars entering the parking lot. At this point, it was rainy and foggy out there. We secured the blankets, covering the windows should anyone look in, and I took down whatever chain hung around my rearview mirror so no one would recognize the car. A lot of thought went into this day. So there we are sitting in the back seat, watching Bob's Burgers on my phone because nothing says romantic like cartoons. I don't know if I want to keep typing. Well, we awkwardly start making out and I put my hand on his groin. And he's unzipping my dress. We go down on each other. His balls smelled and they smelled bad. So I put the condom on for him and sit on his lap. Mind you, he's a big guy and we're in a tiny car. So my head is tilted against the roof of the car and I'm awkwardly trying to position myself. Again, he's a big guy so I can't really get my knees on either side of him. It hurts, but we keep going. After trying different positions and failing, he finishes and I'm bleeding. At this point, the car is fogged up from the inside and it's still pouring. I put my undies and bra back on, we take down the blankets and he cleans up. As I'm exiting the back seat to get to the driver's seat, this random guy on a bike passes in front of my car and we make awkward eye contact. I take my so home and head to the library to volunteer because I'm a good girl. We still laugh about it to this day, and I still have the undies I lost my V card in. I hope you guys feel as awkward as I did writing this. Story 3. Tea all started going downhill right after we removed our clothes and I blurted out I'm a virgin because I was so nervous before we began. She laughed and thought I was gonna come quick, but lo and behold. She gave me the hardest erection of my life through oral, but then made me lose it during penetration because she kept making some really hard, concern-raising noises, had a flushed face of clear discomfort and pain every time I thrusted, and kept pushing me back as if to stop me from going too deep. I can only assume the third part. When she asked me why I lost it, I couldn't bear to tell her that her body language was saying no despite her real desire to have sex, so I just said I had exam stress. Story 4. We've all been former virgins. It was my 19th birthday. No idea how exactly it happened, I was that wasted. I remember being in my house after drinks with like 10 to 15 people, then they all just vanished, and I was left with a friend's friend. She was fairly attractive, so we commenced the act of kissing. We ended up in my room. By this stage I'm very aware that I'm getting naked. I jump on top of her when she stops to ask me if I have a rubber. I pause for a second, leap off my bed, and run down the stairs without explaining myself. I didn't have a rubber, but my brother did, and he lived 40 feet away in another house, my dad's house. I ran as hard and fast as I could across my estate, full on in the nude, bits flying everywhere. I get to the top of the stairs, shout his name, and before he can answer, I'm stood in his doorway, blacked out silhouette trying to catch my breath. He already knows, pulls the rubber from his jeans, and tosses it across the room towards me, no questions asked, then turns and goes back to sleep. Not before texting our entire friends group about what's going to occur. I know this will become much clearer. Eventually, I arrive back to my room and begin to engage in some nice oral foreplay. I'm plenty experienced in this act, get her nice and close. I remember a lot of bush, by the way, not the most fun, but I sucked it up and ate. Eventually, I find the nerve to move from my oral position onto the top of her. Within around 30 seconds, I lost my V-plates. The act lasted around an hour to an hour and a half, only when she finished did we stop. I was far too wasted and nervous to finish. Despite wearing a rubber, I was worried I'd knock her up. My experience was horrible, it was just me doing a lot of thrusting on a corpse. She didn't move much at all. No legs wrapped around me, no hands on me, almost no kissing whatsoever, and she lay there like a board. It was dreadful. I had plenty of time to check my phone during this, which is how I found out all my friends knew. Story 5. Fucking awful. It was after prom and she had grabbed those shitty small Durex condoms from the school health office. I wasn't expecting for us to be finally killing our virgin status that night, or else I would have went and bought a box of good condoms. Couldn't keep a hard on, the condom was so tight, and she was so tight she cried the whole time. 0/10 experience. Story 6. He was somewhat experienced, I was not, and he knew that. We tried 2 to 3 times and couldn't get it in due to vaginismus. He went back and forth from being really excited that I was tight, horrified that he'd hurt me, and perplexed on how I could logistically give birth to children. When it finally worked, it didn't really feel good to me due to pain. He was disappointed that I had no idea what I was doing, and it was hard ignoring the pain, it radiated up my spine and keeping rhythm. He was happy about it, but it wasn't really a bonding experience that people obsessed about and gushed over, and I felt awful after, like society had lied to me. I think he noticed and told me I was really good at it, complimented me, etc. Later, he referred to me as a dead fish when we were alone and he was upset. I had body image issues and a lot of issues around sex, and it took me years to get through that. Story 7. We were both 18 and in her dorm. Her roommates were gone for the weekend, so we were kicking it and having a grand old time. She had a shower fetish, so she asked me to shower with her, and I figured why not. Things got a little steamy until I literally slipped and fell down and hit my head while I was hard as a rock. Instead of asking if I was okay, she just hopped on and started riding me. Dazed sex was definitely an interesting experience that I did not enjoy. Would not recommend for first-timers. Did get better over time though, so that was a plus. Story 8. I, 22, have been waiting for this. It's my time to shine. So basically, I'm a late bloomer and didn't get any attention from the opposite sex until I got to college. Fast forward, a little after my 21st birthday, I ended up getting together one night with this guy I kissed on my 20th birthday, first kiss BTW. It was Netflix and chill, and somehow my top came off, then my bra, and then I was butt naked and he was too. So the whole time I was nervous and playing it cool, and I thought maybe I should tell him, so I did. He asked me if I still wanted to do this and told me I have to be sure. My horny meter was on 1000 and I told him it's alright. It actually felt great. I thought it would hurt and it only did for a second. However, I didn't climax, but I read a lot of women don't when they have sex the first time. Other than that, I had fun. Story 9. I was 25. A bit later in life than most, but I didn't feel comfortable enough with anyone until that point in life. I wanted to be in a stable, loving relationship originally, but then once I met my current, so I just wanted to get over that milestone hump, and he was / still is a respectable and responsible enough person that I felt safe enough. We had gone on a lovely dinner date and were fooling around at my place. I had already bought condoms, so after some talking, we decided to go through with it together. It hurt and we didn't carry on too much because I was in too much pain. Second time was a lot better, and I was able to get into a rhythm with my partner, so I consider that time to be my actual first time, while the technical first time was more of a warm-up. Story 10. Both 16, he had been with one person before me, but it was my first time. It felt incredible. Only because right before it happened we tried having sex in a pool and couldn't get it in, so like any pain or anything had kinda already been handled, I guess. And then we went back to my house. I told him I wanted to try again, and apparently I was way tighter than he was expecting. But when he finally went in, swear to God it was ecstasy. Like eyes rolling back in your head, nails digging into his shoulders, back fully arching, toes curling, gonna come right fucking now ecstasy. It had always been built up in movies that a girl's first time was supposed to be painful, but mine was bliss. He was also my first boyfriend, my first everything, so that factor also made it hot and incredibly romantic. I was raised in a super Christian home, so after I got over not being a virgin anymore, we were basically like rabbits in heat. Seriously fucking anytime we could, like everywhere. Pretty sure that being my first sexual relationship is what spurred on my becoming a sex addict.